Recurring report. Here, Rick Smith.
Here.
Howard Thomas.
Here.
Everybody could stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm going to start tonight with recognition. Andrea Borla and Cindy Carpenter. The Board of Education will recognize Andrea Borla and Cindy Carpenter for receiving certificates of achievement for excellence in financial reporting from the Association of School Business Officials International and the Government Finance Officers Association for their comprehensive annual financial report, CAFR, for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2015. The certificate of achievement is the highest form of recognition in governmental accounting and financial reporting, and its attainment represents a significant accomplishment by a government and its management. The CAFR has been ranked by an impartial panel to meet the high standards of the program, including demonstrating a constructive spirit of full disclosure to clearly communicate its financial story and motivate potential users and user groups to read the CAFR. The Certificate of Excellence Award confirms the school business office's commitment to financial accountability and transparency. Recognition through the COE program can help strengthen a district's presentation for bond issuance statements and promotes a high level of financial reporting. This is the 6th year in a row Andrea and Cindy have received both of these prestigious awards. Congratulations.
Sometimes you get credit, you better take it.
That's right. Next, we have public comment. Members of the public who wish to the board should complete a request card prior to the meeting. This section of the meeting will be reserved for comments from the public. All comments should be limited to 3 minutes. Criticism of individuals is not in order. Okay. We have Larry Lundgren on petitions.
I don't know if this is a comment, but I was wondering, Madam President, if you could shed some light on when are the nominating petitions going to be ready for the school board's election coming April 4th, 2017. That's just I know the city governments are in September. I was just wondering if yours was going to run the same as theirs.
The county clerk oversees that.
So the county clerk, I
Yes,
guess, call.
yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
It's generally in December when we're closed. It's generally in December.
That's what they're doing.
It's the 17th and the 18th that they're due in.
It's usually, but yeah, there's usually some.
Okay, next we have presentations. Oh. Board committee reports and correspondence. Howard?
This is very brief. I received a letter of resignation from Joe Mitchell of President Committee and our Japanese Vice President. Plan to go.
Anybody else have? Next we have presentations, employee benefits, insurance, and this is Judith Mormon. This is an informational item.
Wanted to, as I put in the packet, let you know that we had gone out and sought put out requests for proposals for our benefits, our employee benefit broker and services. Currently, we have been with Mesro and have been for 10 years. And there were some concerns that we were having on the level of service that we were receiving, so we felt it was appropriate to get the request for proposals for professional services out. So we did that. We did get 4 responses back. The 4 companies that responded was Mesro Financial, Hub International, the Horton Group, and WL Benefits. Mesro came back, and what we were asking is, one of the difficulties that I had was just trying to figure out what we were supposed to be getting from them for our fee, and never really did get a good handle on that. But when we did the request for proposals, we defined very clearly what it was we were looking for each of those parties to do if they were to become our consultant and a broker. And so ultimately, pricing wise came in as Mesro came in, if they were to do a full service, at $14.50 per employee per month, which actually comes in at just under $130,000 for the year. Right now, they currently do primarily our medical. They do just the brokerage services only, which we're paying $40,000 for. And one of the difficulties we had is concerned with some of the level of service. Not only we in my office are having, but sometimes our employees were not getting the services they deserve. We had one poor gentleman who had his medical kept getting entered wrong over and over again. But he had 3 times it was wrong. That was unacceptable. And he'd find out when you go to the doctor and find out he had no coverage. So that, when you're talking family, that's a big deal. And so that's one deal. So they proposed that they could provide a level of service that, honestly, when our group reviewed it, my team reviewed the proposals, they were claiming to be able to do things that we weren't seeing evidence of them currently doing. Hub International came in and they gave us a price of $10 to $15 per employee per month, comparable rate. And that was for medical only. So they were looking at over $100,000 for what Mesro were doing alone. Plus, but to get the rest of it, then there would be commissions on all the other products. Horton Group, their proposal was so disjointed, we couldn't tell you what the bottom line was. And if their proposal was that disjointed, we really didn't spend time trying to parse it out in the middle of it. They mainly sent us a bunch of promotional flyers. So we didn't give them much consideration. The WL group is the group that is one that my group, after they had listened to, we brought 2 groups back, not only with their proposals, but to come and present their proposals in person to answer questions. Hub International and WL Benefits did that. WL Benefits is who we're suggesting would be the one to enter into a contract with. It would be a contract that would get us through the balance of this year and then the 2 subsequent years. The type of service, well, I'm going to give you the prices to give everyone else's price, actually comes out to $7.55 per person per employee per month. They would administer our COBRA program, which currently we self-administer with a software. When they administer it, that also means that they take on the liabilities that are associated with COBRA. They would also help us with the coverage that as an IMRF employee, they are allowed to participate in our retirees participate in our health insurance program. They would administer that as well. They would be the point of contact, and that would mean that if somebody, I know it may be hard for you to believe, but it's really hard for me when our retirees or anybody, when they don't get their payment in here, I really need to cancel them. It's really hard for me to do that because I know they depend on it. So I don't believe it or not. I sometimes have a hard time doing that because it's just hard on it. I don't want to mistreat the people. This would take that administration to them, that if they had to have notices sent, they would send the notices. If they had to be canceled, they would be doing the canceling on our behalf. They would have an electronic open enrollment process, which we did a form of electronic open enrollment last year. It worked well. Wasn't pretty on the back end, but Kyle had to build it in a matter of a few weeks with something that should have taken 4 to 6 months to build, to get all the bugs out of it. He did a phenomenal job, but they would take that over in its entirety. The flexible spending accounts, which we have now, right now we're paying $4.75 per participant per month, and they would be administering that. We would have an online presence for our employees of the employee benefits, called Benefits Talk is their product. It's a product that they themselves owned, developed, and keep in track of. On their front page, when you go in as an employee, it would tell you what your FSA balance was. It would tell you what you were enrolled in. Very, very user-friendly that they just revamped. So we would have an online services for our employees. There would be telephone access for our employees if they wanted to call someone and talk to an insurance professional. Currently, what they do is they come talk to our benefits person here, and that benefits person then calls Mesero, who calls the carrier, and we get back to them. This way, you would be talking to a benefits professional, to an insurance professional who can get you your answers in a timely manner and gets back to the employees. They would also, and if one of the, I have to tell you that I have utilized this company before, and one of the nice things is when they call the benefits line, we have to tell them what we want to call, but they would answer the phone, something to the effect of District 428 benefits, how may I help you? So it's branded for us. The website would be branded for us. We would have a dedicated email address for our employees and a dedicated fax number for our employees. They also would perform routine audits to make sure that our bills and our deductions and benefits are where they're supposed to be. So there's a financial accounting on a monthly basis to make sure that we have everything right in the system, that we're capturing the money that we should from the employees, and that we're making the commitment, the costs out each month that we're paying out. I spent with you some of the performance guarantees that they have, and it isn't just empty words because I have used this company before. They did perform at this level. At the benefits call center, call abandonment rate where somebody gives up is less than 5%. They post those regularly in their office. It is not, generally it's more in the range of 1 or 2%. They guarantee us less than 5%. Their average speed to answer, 85% of the calls are answered in 60 seconds or less. As far as their benefit issues tracking, they keep track of everything, and at least 90% of the issues that an employee brings to them are resolved in 48 hours or less. That's their guarantee. They process things like FSA claims when flexible spending accounts for dependent care or out-of-pocket medical. 95% of those are processed in 3 days or less. Average speed, for even, so if you have a problem, you need to call about the FSA. Again, 85% of the calls are answered in under a minute. So the processing of COBRA, 95% are processed within 3 days, 1% within 7 days to keep us compliant with the federal law. How this would be, and you will see next time if you say go forward. Next time I will getting the contract out to council for review. After he does that and we negotiate some things, I hope we have a long time till the next meeting to be able to put that on you. I want to warn you that the contract is 40 pages long because you're handling personal health information, so there's a lot of protections that have to be in the wording of that. So each one of these elements deals with personal information, and we have to assure that our employees are adequately protected. That contract is there, so it's very lengthy to give you that wording. What it'll show is that we are talking about a flat rate for the medical benefits, for the medical medical plan administration. The reason that we are doing that is because it just doesn't feel right to give somebody a commission based on how much our claims are. So the sicker our people are, the more they make. We don't like that. We want a certain flat hour amount on our medical. The rest of it would be commission-based, which would be our other benefits, including the voluntary benefits. Any commissions that they make are used to offset the costs of these services that were offered. Ultimately, this year, we would have about $16,000 total out of pocket for the district, which is less than this is comparable to what we are currently paying Mesero on a monthly basis. And next year, the district, because of the commissions that we anticipated, we would not write them a check at all. It'd be strictly from the commissions. Go for it.
So you're outsourcing the corporate handling and the retiree insurance to another, to this company, right? So what effect does that internally have on your department in terms of time utilization and in that project?
Right. Honestly, it's going to be, there are many projects that we have not been able to get to service our employees the way that we want to. We would also still be overseeing this to make sure that things are being done. The other thing is on the benefits end of it, having a person in-house who can at least address their concerns, where you get a face where you can sit down is very important, particularly in education, because they're used to having that personal touch. So we would still have some of that in. It may be that we will be able, we're going to have a year of transition. After that year of transition, if we find that we have accomplished many of the project-oriented things that you've given me staff to do, and things are up and working, we may, be able to pare back, or we may be able to make sure we're doing other things better. So.
Jim, you mentioned a couple of times guarantees. And when you get a guarantee that 95% of phone calls are going to be answered within a minute, it sounds wonderful, but what is the or else?
The or else is if we find that they are not providing us any of the services that they're providing us, if they do not provide those adequately to our satisfaction, we put them on notice. They have 90 days to remedy it to our satisfaction, or we are out of the contract. And I can tell you, having worked with the company, I had to, when I told them I needed something, it was done.
We have a consensus on this matter.
Yes.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Next is the Curriculum Technology Initiative update. Dr. Jenny Huber, and this is an informational.
Come on, team. So we are just here to provide the end of the year update for the first year of implementation of the Curriculum Technology Initiative. And just a reminder to all of you that the data that we are talking about tonight, it's our baseline data. So then we'll start taking a look in the years to come in terms of the impact of the Curriculum Tech Initiative. So your board goal states improve articulation, alignment, technology integration, and instructional practices in pre-K through 12 in order to improve student achievement, graduation rate, and college and career readiness. And that's really what the data is taking a look at. So what were the goals of the Curriculum Technology Initiative? They were to help our students become 21st century learners, meaning critical thinkers, problem solvers, improved instruction in the classroom. Our classrooms would become centers of inquiry, using technology to problem solve. Students are prepared to contribute to a global society and increase student achievement. So in terms of the timeline, you can see where we are at. We've just finished year 1, and we are looking ahead to year 2. In fact, Denise, Brian, and I were with the high school folks today talking about rolling out devices for our 11th and 12th graders at the high school. So next year, students grades 3 through 12 will have Chromebooks. We started professional development with our teachers on June 2nd. and have been doing it over the past couple of weeks. And we'll bring to you the amount of professional development in terms of hours and the number of participants by the end of the summer. And then additional IT staff will also be hired as well for year 2. So, what are those best practices or the research that we are using to support the curriculum tech initiative? We're taking a look at the Common Core, the Next Generation Science Standards, and the new Illinois Social Science Standards that are supporting the work that's going on in the classroom. Those instructional shifts that we are making in the classroom and technology is again supporting that. Our instructional coaches are providing that daily embedded professional development for our teachers. The increase in collaborative practices through our once-a-month release time, but also in terms of working with our instructional coaches. Again, remember that technology is that tool that's supporting teaching and learning in the classroom. And then we are also really taking a look at our assessments, making sure that they're aligned to our learning targets because we're using them to inform what's going on in the classroom on a daily basis.
So basically, this is the same slide from the last time. We're being consistent in terms of the data that we will be looking at in this presentation with the updates. So we're going to be looking at financial data, and I'll go through that next slide. The technology data, the teaching and learning data, student behavioral data, and student academic performance data. And again, just a reminder that a lot of this data is based on this year, so we're really just kind of starting, having a full year under our belt, and really has some good data to start with and to move forward into the next year with the rollout. So the financial data, I'm happy to say that we are basically under budget, although this looks like we're a little over, but the main part of that is the instructional cost. What we budgeted was $390,000 for instructional coaches. All of the instructional coaches were current teachers in the district at the time, so their salaries were higher, but the people that we hired to replace those teachers actually came in a little lower than the $390,000, came in at $346,700. So if you're looking just at the one-to-one curriculum technology initiative in total with those in there, it looks like we're a little over, but technically overall we're a little bit under in terms of the budget on the coaches, and so we really did come in fairly close to what we thought we would. And we're anticipating for the next rollout, and we have on the agenda today for the leases for the two, we're actually coming in lower with in terms of cost of new devices, even including the so we are looking better in terms of what we had initially budgeted for those costs. And again, I'm sorry, and this is taking into consideration as if the fiscal year is over. So even though we're technically not over, we did put those costs in here so we can see a full year's worth of costs.
This slide here, what you're really just seeing is just a number of devices that we've purchased. You okay, Tim? Sorry. On the devices where we purchased at this time, and just where we're headed, and there's not a whole lot of change there. It was the same slide that we saw last time out. On the next slide for the tech repairs, okay, so that one's updated. What we had, very similar numbers as far as number of tickets. Really, as the third quarter went on, we got about 5 more emails or voicemails specific to one-to-one from students or parents. We are up to 470 damaged screens throughout the school year. The first one in those cases are placed under warranty, and it's just a paper shuffle. If it happens a second time, we have to, we do it ourselves, or we may send it out, and we incur a cost for that. But the fees for the families do go up with those second, or in some cases, unfortunately, third broken screen. I know some of our principals have received emails from us and talked to students in regards to that and worked through them on some of their issues with damage like that.
Alrighty, this is showing the data from our instructional coaches, and from first semester to second semester, the largest increase we see is in the purple, which is the small group collaboration, and in the light blue, which is also the teacher support. So that was really encouraging for us to see, because that's kind of where we had hoped things would go, so it was nice to see that. And then the two biggest areas of decrease were in the tech support and in the troubleshooting, which we had anticipated, but again, it was really nice to see that the focus is not really on the devices. Teachers are feeling more comfortable with the devices and the hardware, and now it's focusing more on the instruction. So that was really nice to see. Professional development, as Jenny said, it's already begun. We have June, July, and even August. Teachers are participating in their session 1, 2, 3, or 4. Many of those sessions. We have tech piece that's going on right now as well, and then many collaboration and curriculum sessions that are going on throughout June, July, and August. So at the next update, you'll receive that information for that data. And then Amy really wanted to be here, Amy Luckner, and so we're bringing her in a little differently here. Oh, Benny, did you?
Yeah, works for my own.
Okay, fine. So everybody, let's go to Jenny's office.
Copy this earlier. Did you show you what you copied?
Yes.
As you know, this has completed walkthrough surveys in the classrooms in their buildings. The walkthrough survey is a brief global observation of the learning environment in a classroom. It includes indicators of learning targets, learning model, use of technology, student engagement, and differentiation. We will review the data for each of these indicators in the next slides. The data from this year provide us a baseline for our district, which will be useful as we move forward on our curriculum initiatives. So learning targets are the specific learning goals that guide teaching and learning in the classroom. What you see in the graph on the right are the data from first and second semesters during this school year. During the first semester, approximately 70 or 71% of the observations had learning targets present. During the second semester, approximately 74% of observations had learning targets present. When we look at learning models, the two different models that we consider are student-centered learning and teacher-centered learning. In student-centered learning, the teacher facilitates the learning based on individual student needs. In teacher-centered learning, the focus is on the teacher and the teacher is seen as the expert. During the first semester, the student-centered learning model was present in approximately 65% of the observations. And during the second semester, the student-centered model was present during 66% of the observations. The use of technology indicator includes the use of any form of technology in the classroom. So during the first semester, approximately 69% of the observations included the use of technology. And during the second semester, the use of technology was noted for approximately 68% of the observations. Student engagement, as you might imagine, is an indicator of students actively engaging and participating in the class activities. What we look for with the walkthrough survey is 80% student engagement. So an observation would be marked yes if 80% of students were engaged in the activity, or no if fewer than 80% of students were engaged in the activity. So during the first semester, approximately 91% of the observations had 80% or higher student engagement. During the second semester, approximately 87% of the observations had 80% or higher student engagement. Differentiation involves tailoring instruction to meet the individual needs of students. This can look different depending on the grade level and content area, and also may not always be apparent on the brief walkthrough. During the first semester, approximately 51% of classrooms or observations had differentiation present, And during the second semester, approximately 50% of observations had differentiation present. The next category of data is our student behavior data, which includes both attendance and office discipline referrals. In these two graphs, the first bar of each cluster are the data from the 2014-2015 school year. And the second bar of each cluster are the data from the 2015-2016 school year. And this first grouping is first semester data. And the second grouping is second semester data. So for example, if we were looking at our middle school data, grades 6 through 8, what we would see is that last year, during first semester, our attendance was 94.49%. This year, our attendance during first semester was 95.10%. For a second semester, last year, our attendance was 94.3%. And this year, our attendance was 93.63%. I do want to note that the second semester data for 9th grade for this year does include the days in February in which we had lower than typical attendance rates. Next, we have the number of students receiving office discipline referrals. So this graph is set up in the same way as the attendance graph. So if we are looking, for example, at our middle school data again, what we would see is that last year, during first semester, 515 students received office referrals. This year, during first semester, coincidentally, again, 515 students received office discipline referrals. And we did double and triple check those numbers. For second semester, last year, 423 students received office discipline referrals. And this year, 384 students received office discipline referrals. So now we're going to turn to data regarding student academic performance. Our first two indicators are graduation rate and dropout rate. And these data we do not have updated for this year yet, as CIS includes summer school with the previous year, so we won't have that information until after summer school has been completed and those data have been uploaded to CIS. We will report on the graduation and dropout rates in our board presentations early next year. We also were looking at credits earned, and what we found for first semester is that last year, 313 credits per student were earned in 9th grade, and this year again, 313 credits per student were earned in 9th grade during first semester. And again, our second semester data are not yet available, so we will be reporting on that again early next school year, so that you will have that information. Okay, I'm going to turn this over to Kim now, who's going to talk about the Ames Web and MAP data. Thanks.
If I'm taping myself, I'm going to do that next time. That's kind of cool.
Just a point of clarification, students didn't earn 300 credits, they earned 1.13.
Okay, so Ames Web benchmarking we've been doing for a number of years, and it's kind of like if you were going to get a physical. Kind of just takes a quick look at how our students are doing and helps us decide who's on target, who could use a little bit more support. So it's broken down by 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. And then you can see what last year our 3rd graders scored for fall and spring. And then this past year's 3rd graders, how they did for fall and spring. And then we have the same thing for 4th grade and the same thing for 5th grade. And our overall goal is to keep increasing the green and decreasing that red. And so one thing I thought was really interesting is if you look at this group here, which was 3rd grade last year, here they are this year as 4th graders. And so there's been some improvement there. Their overall has really gone up. So you can kind of follow a cohort. This cohort here is 4th graders last year, and then here they are as fifth graders this year. And this is in reading. And then we have math, which we've given 3 times a year. And this is our fall and then our spring. And remember, MAP stands for Measures of Academic Progress. And so you can see first bar for each grade is the fall, and the second bar in red would be how our students scored in spring. Any other questions about that? So then these are the same 2 graphs, except this would be for math. So this is MComp, which is again like a temperature of how our kids are performing on operations that are expected for their grade level. And so 3rd grade, 4th grade, and 5th grade again. And the first 2 bars would be how we did last year. The second 2 bars would be how we've scored this year. This one's pretty impressive. So those 5th graders, they would be right here as 4th graders. So they still even made some more gains, which is really exciting. And then for our math, this is for our math. And I think I noticed, yeah, every grade made a nice increase from fall to spring, from 3rd grade through freshman. I didn't know if you had any questions about that.
Finally, we wanted to share with you a little bit of data that we've collected in terms of intervention. I'm actually going to go into a lot more detail about the data I'm going to share with you tonight, actually in August, because this actually directly relates to the READ 180 intervention system, which I've presented, and updated you over the course of the year. But we did get our initial overview of our end of the year data analysis report that would reflect intervention for grades 6 through 9. I'm going to show you that slide in a minute. But again, I just want to conclude by saying that I will go into a lot more detail in August when I have the full report. But the point we wanted to make tonight, and Amy Luckner and I actually talked a lot about what we wanted to say about the role of one-to-one as we start to becoming much more systematic and intentional in terms of our interventions at the secondary level. Because a combination of having access to the one-to-one technology has allowed us, grades 6 through 9, to develop a system of reading interventions that's much more specific and very targeted. Part of that is the support we're getting from the MAP data, because MAP at secondary levels, grades 6 through 9, is allowing us to really identify where those students really, really are. Last year, all that secondary had was the Ames Web. Now that we have MAP, we can really break down and get that deep data in terms of what is it in secondary. Why are they still struggling with reading? Is it comprehension? Is it vocabulary? What exactly is going on? And so having that access for the one-to-one, allowing us to systematically benchmark our students through MAP has allowed us then to be much more specific in terms of our intervention placement. Also, that READ 180 software that I've spoken to so often and is an adaptive computer software. So in other words, it responds to where the students are at and becomes more difficult as they deepen their skills. Also, having access to this READ 180 system is allowing us to develop a very systematic implementation of interventions across all grade levels. So now, as we're preparing to move into next year, because we've been able to collect this data on these students at a depth that we've never been able to do before, as we're going into next year, we're able to properly place these students. Some are going to exit. Some are going to get placed into a lesser intensive piece. Some students who probably could have been in it will be placed in it next year. And for me personally, the most exciting piece is that the high school has had no reading intervention support. We'll not only have READ 180 at the 9th grade level, but we're going to follow those 9th graders who are into 10th grade with a less intensive but continued support through READ 180. And all of this, again, is being made possible through the one-to-one. The other piece is because the nature of the program, students, teachers, and parents are getting immediate feedback. This is also true about MAP. When the students take that MAP score, take that MAP test,
they know their score pretty much within seconds. Within the Read 180 system, the students are on their Chromebooks. They'll do like a scholastic reading inventory, an SRI. They know where they are right from as soon as they do that. When those interventionists take them through some of those other quizzes and other monitoring, the students and the teachers, as well as the parents, get that immediate feedback. Read 180 teachers have been able to give regular feedback to the parents to let the parents know how their students are doing. I think though, from a teaching point of view, and if you talk to the students, the parents, and the teachers, having this type of intervention system in place is creating an increased student engagement and ownership, because the students get that immediate feedback right away. Teachers can sit down with those students and literally set those personal goals. We have students who have struggled with reading their whole careers, setting goals for themselves in terms of how they want to grow. So it's been a very dynamic process that's really taken hold. And I can also say that secondary becomes more and more comfortable with math. Teachers are starting to do the same thing with their classroom students, starting to set those goals so that they go to that next benchmark in January, that next one in the spring. Students are taking ownership of their student growth. Amy and I, this again, I'm going to give you a lot more data in August, but this is just to show you the impact of having the systematic Read 180 in place at secondary. And just to point out, so in 2014, 2015, and it was a much smaller program, lot shorter scope, lot less time. The average daily use in minutes on the software was only 12 minutes a day. This year, it jumped to 18 minutes a day. And it falls into that sweet spot of the 15 to 20 minutes recommended, which translates into this next graph in terms of average Lexile growth. Last year, Read 180 was just offered at Clinton Rosette and at Huntley, and this was their growth in terms of Lexiles. The two middle schools, somewhere around 40 points in their Lexile. This year, and this I actually pulled from our end of year report, you can see that on average, students at the middle school grew 120 Lexile points, and at the high school, and this was their first year, they grew over 140 points in Lexile. So altogether, this has been able to really help support the students that have really needed it the most.
So next steps, as we look ahead, rolling out devices to our juniors and seniors and handing back devices to our 4th through 10th graders and rolling out to our 3rd graders. That ongoing professional development on a lot is happening this summer and will continue through next school year. Ongoing data collection, we will continue to collect the very same data that we have shown you tonight, so that we are being consistent and can show you where the impact is being made. And then we will continue with updates. We will taper it back to once each semester, because when we look at quarters, we're not seeing the growth because it's quarter, it's 9 weeks. And the other thing I would ask is, because we have incomplete data for you because we can't pull it from Skyward until after summer school, is if we could present to you just before school starts next year, so that we have complete data. We have graduation rate, dropout rate, and credits earned. We are asking that we be able to do that. So we would present to you in August, and then again in February.
First meeting in August.
Yep. Yeah. So that's looking ahead for next year. So questions? Vicki?
The Ames Web reading scores for the 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. It looks like maybe not quite half of our students are falling into an established category, which I would as they need some help. Within students that need help with their reading. And I'm wondering what interventions we're currently using, because I forgot, and then why we can't seem to get these numbers to change, because it doesn't look like it's changing. I can't understand why half of our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders aren't reading it when I'm in school.
that's a question that we're always debating. I've never seen, for all the districts that I have looked at, anybody's scores much different than this with Ames Web. Even though they want us to hit that 80%, and we're getting closer with math, I haven't seen the reading. So I don't know, I'm not good at the whole norming thing, which if Amy was here, she'd be able to explain how that is. So when we do the interventions that you brought up, we probably have about, I don't know, 10 or 11 options between English and Spanish that the menu we kind of look at. What does that student need? And then what program or what type of activity do we have that would help that student make that improvement? We look at the 10%, the bottom 10%, because we don't have, to be honest with you, enough staff to go higher than that. So that's why we tend to target that bottom 10 to 15% of our population and see what can we do to help those students. Also, when we used to give the ISAT, that's the area that we wanted to hit, because if they were getting that yellow and that green, they had a pretty good chance of doing pretty well on ISAT. So we always were targeting in that red area. And it, you know, the one thing that we're looking at, our ELA team has been looking at, and we spent some time on this actually last week, is that, okay, we can talk about interventions, which is good, but let's talk about, like you just mentioned, the other 70% that are in the yellow. I mean, this is, you know, between the yellow and that, so 30% that is in the middle there, what can we do to help them? Well, that comes back to the classroom. We have to change what we're doing with all our kids, not just a smaller group. So we're looking at, like, these ELA templates we're writing. That's why we went for a stronger writing program. We're looking at a stronger phonics piece come on board, because we're seeing that our kids, when you look at this data, are in need of having that bigger base. Say again? So we met with them. We had quite an intense presentation with them, and they have a different program too. They have Read 180, but they also have Systems 44, which is what they recommend for elementary, and then they would go into 180 if that's what's needed. So we did spend some time. The MMTS now has to look at that program to see if it is something that would meet the needs. One of the issues, yes, is it's outreach. I thought it was expensive. Vicki kept telling me it was. No, outrageous is appropriate. And here's why. Because we have 8 elementaries. And it's very expensive for secondary to be doing it if they have less sites. They charge you according to the number of sites.
I remember that.
Yes, and so I haven't wheeled and dealed yet. I mean, I'm a car salesman, so I'm going to deal. And if we get to that point, I know how to do that. So I will, but because we did see the benefits of by 4th grade, we need something more intense. And it's a small group of kids, but
If you do not think about this right, if there's a 4th grader who's not functioning at 4th grade reading, and you move him to 5th grade, he's still at 4th grade. By the time he's at 8th grade, he might or might not still be at 4th grade.
Right.
How could they possibly?
Right. And when you look at the 8 schools, we've talked about that. If you add up the 8 schools, we're talking 30 or 40 kids. That's a lot of kids. I mean, yes, we have 500 and some that need, and 30, 40 are at that level. That's a good percentage that are doing well, but that 30 or 40 is concerning to us. So that's why we have been looking at some other options. We do have a couple reading programs that we do use that are quite intense for that 4th and 5th, but we're looking more at something a little bit more engaging, a little bit more, some of those programs are getting a little outdated.
So it's almost a percentage more because we've got 450 kids in 8 class. Even if it's spread out over 8 buildings, there are 40 of them spread out over 8 buildings. It's not likely that one building is 30% not reading at the proper level.
Right. And you know, we have our second language students as well, and they are represented in there.
Okay.
And you know, that's a debate whether that's fair, but that is how we do that, you know. So that is putting those students in there when we're focusing on a different language with them. We are still measuring English because that does show growth as well. So that does factor in here. So if we were to pull some of those students out, it would look a little bit different. You know, things. Yeah.
I got a question. I don't know who to address it to, but it talks about depth, shows the differentiation, capability of the software to differentiate. What about peer teaching? We've heard in the past that when it's just being thought about, that, well, and also as the pilots were ongoing, that some of the kids are teaching other kids, right? I don't see anything in the data, I haven't looked at it long, but that tells me whether or not that peer teaching is going on. Can you say anything about that?
I'll speak to that. So the data that we are pulling is based upon, ISD, which, Brian, what's that stand for?
What's that again?
ISD?
Illinois State,
No.
the technology
National Society of Technical
educators.
So the reason that we're looking at this particular data is there had been this huge study done in 2010 that looked at devices being used in schools and where it was having an impact. And so it was having an impact on student achievement, on the graduation rate, on the dropout rate, on interventions. So it didn't talk specifically about peer teaching. Do we see that, or do we hear stories about that? We hear it all the time, that it is going on. But and that also would be a part of that student engagement.
Yeah, just
So we would see when we do walkthroughs, we would see that, because that's a part of student engagement, that peer coaching, peer teaching.
Student center.
Yeah.
So that's a good point. That's one place where the data can show it.
Yes,
Perhaps,
yes.
sort of infer.
Yes.
But is there any way that we can actually document, a real objective data collection on this kind of stuff? Because I'm thinking we spend a lot of money on professional development, right? But we're not developing the students. Whatever they're doing on their own, right? We're instructing, teachers and other people that are in the administration staff and so on how to deliver this kind of education. But the kids are doing it themselves to some degree. That's what this peer teaching is about.
A lot of the teachers, strategies the teachers group taught us
To allow that to happen.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
That
But I'm just
collaboration.
thinking about from a statistical point of view, how can we gather data that will tell us the improvement is due to this or this or this? Is there any way to devise a system that will let us know that?
Yeah.
And we can't say that it's
We
because.
talk about correlation.
Right,
and
not
about
causation.
Yeah.
That's the-
Yeah. There's so many other things we have to rule out.
Mutual correlation, but not necessarily causal. You think.
Well, if you had a TV camera in the room that showed kids,
Ah.
there's your data, right? I mean, there's one quick way, yes. So there are ways, but I don't see anything in all this data. There's a lot of good stuff here, but just quickly, I don't see anything that tells us that kind of stuff. It's very interesting, but I think there's a lot more to it that could be done going forward.
Sure, that's true. I don't know where it is.
Terry, just momentarily, I'll address that. The way that you find out whether you're seeing the peer interaction that leads to teaching is to be a board member of the district.
Okay.
And
But see, that's
when
anecdotal.
you're in there with the classroom and you're seeing it going on as it's going on, that's the documentation that's, you can't actually quantify it, it's just something that you become aware of. So,
A long time ago, they started talking about interventions and 3TM and all these acronyms, all this kind of stuff. Right? Remember that meeting in the old high school auditorium? And it's like, wow, talking about nuts and bolts and bumpers on cars and stuff like that. I mean, it made me think about Detroit and engineering. But anyway, it would be nice to know how effective our money is, right? I mean, we're spending $4 million or whatever it is, on the one-to-one. And as we go forward, as long as the data is good, I imagine we'll try to do more. But I also want to know what's our leverage. This technology is not only delivering a lot of good things and bringing kids up to grade level, like what Vicki's talking about there, reading in particular, which is super important to have them learn how to read early. But it also can leverage everything. You can end up with more than one teacher. Maybe it's 1 point something teachers in the class as a result of the peer teaching and the differentiation where the teacher's able to spend more time in certain groups and all that. So,
and that's exactly what's happening with the instructional coaches who are coming in to be the second teacher in the classroom. And it's not completely all a documented type of thing where you pick it up from out of a graph. that's going to show it to you, but it happened.
Yeah.
And, you know, just from the privilege of somebody who's retired, I have the opportunity to walk in and make myself a pest periodically. You know,
They appreciate you being
insofar as you trust me.
Yeah, but
I know, I'm just trying to.
I think that's great when we can get that kind of, I would call it anecdotal, I mean, it's not something you quantify. You know, but from a business model perspective, you have to be able to quantify it. And that's why I'm asking these questions and making suggestions and so on. You know, is there anything we can do to further quantify it so that when everybody says, why are you spending $4 million of our money on this? You know, then you have Howard here to talk to the, I guess partly subjective kind of thing, but also let's have some real numbers, that can show us, wow, we're getting the value of another 0.3 FTE or something from this.
You know, one thing too, this summer for summer school, because I'm in charge of that for elementary and like middle school and a little bit of high school. We have a program called Core 5, which is a computer-based program. It's very inexpensive. Many districts use it. We've had it for a while, but we didn't have the devices. And so this summer, every kid in our summer academy is on that program for 20 minutes, down to our kindergartners, all the way up to our 8th graders. And so I'm really excited to see the data because the teachers were telling me what a difference that has made, because they've got their group is so spread for their ability that this has been something that can target in where they're at, give them that time while they read with this group, they're working on those skills. And so I'll be curious, we'll share that data with you to see what a difference, but it's given us another option where we didn't have that option before. But we had computers in the back of the room that you had to cycle the kid through. Now we can get them all on there at the same time. So.
Any other questions for Jenny?
Just one, yes, we do have many instructional coaches, and they do an excellent job. But as we have them, it would be really a goal of an instructional coach to have the set of people who teach become so extremely proficient that the coach isn't needed anymore. That you have, much like driver's ed. Once somebody passes it, they become such a good driver that they don't have to have the driver ed teacher sitting in the car next to them for a long period of time. What are we going to do with our instructional coaches when we reach this level of proficiency that the coaches work themselves out of a job?
Well, I mean, they would have the opportunity to go back.
Let me just ask the board, okay, with, moving the presentation going forward into August, so we have PP data.
Well, some schools are actually, we got a graduation rate is 2% from summer school, so those will have those data until mid-July, so.
Okay. So August will be done.
First week in August.
Right. Thank you, just all of the presenters, it was very well done. Next up is non-business consent agenda. That the Board of Education approve the non-business consent agenda items A through G. Do I have a motion? So moved. Second? Discussion. Roll call, please.
Davis.
Yes.
Vicky Van Haver.
Yes.
Terry Moore.
Yes.
Victoria Newport.
Yes.
Rick Smith.
No.
Howard Summer.
Yes.
Next is business consent agenda, that the Board of Education approve the business consent agenda items A through C. Do I have a motion? So moved. Second? Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Vicky Van Haver.
Yes.
Terry Moore.
Yes.
Victoria Newport.
Yes.
Rick Smith.
Yes.
Howard Summer.
Yes.
Fred Davis.
Yes.
This is the business and finance section. Request for quote to lease one-to-one devices. And this is an action item. That the Board of Education accept American Capital's quote for a 3-year fair market value operating lease with $5 per device buyout option for a total cost of $522,801 or $340 37 cents per device. Do I have a motion? Second. Any discussion? Roll call please.
Aaron Millet,
Yes.
Victoria Newport,
Yes.
Rick Smith,
Yes.
Howard Solomon,
Yes.
Fred Davis,
No.
Vicky Hernandez.
Yes. Next is approval of contract renewal for food services, Chartwell's, and this is an action item. That the Board of Education approved extension of the food service contract to Compass Group USA, by and through its Chartwell's division for an increase of 0.7% CPI for the fiscal year 2016-17 school year as attached. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call please.
Rick Smith,
Yes.
Howard Solomon,
Yes.
Fred Davis,
Yes.
Vicky Hernandez.
Yes.
Aaron Millet,
Yes.
Victoria Newport.
Yes. Next is working cash fund abatement to capital projects. This is an action item. That the Board of Education adopt the resolution to abate the working cash fund in the amount of $347,000, $347,169 to the operations and maintenance fund, and then transfer this amount into the capital projects fund. Have a motion? Second. Discussion? Roll call please.
Howard Solomon,
Yes.
Fred Davis,
Yes.
Vicky Hernandez.
Yes.
Aaron Millet,
Yes.
Victoria Newport,
Yes.
Rick Smith.
Yes.
Next is new business administration, middle school summer work for middle school counselors. And this is, Mr. Smith and Mr. Vincent, information.
So thank you for letting us sort of pitch it for assisting tonight with the summer counseling hours. Really, the proposal is really three different things that encompass the total number of hours we're asking for. The first is our web program. It's a middle school transition program to both middle school. That 7 staff members work over the summer. It's a all year long program, but there are some hours that go into training the 8th grade leaders, as well as the actual orientation night over the summer that takes place before the school year starts. So that's conservatively speaking, we'd be asking for 15 hours per staff member that work that program. The total for that would be $2,625. The second is and that would be as long as the web program would continue, that would be an annual thing, since the work really does have to be done over the summer as an orientation program. You look at what advisory.
Sure, and then advisory is another one of those recurring programs that we are going to be working on, trying to see if they can work through a little bit of the collaboration days in the future to cut back on the hours. However, due to the technology lessons that were pushed in by the district tech committee into advisory periods for our middle schools, there's been some changes made for the following year, this coming school year. And because of that, there's a sizable gap in our advisory lessons that need to be worked on. And since this all came at the end of the school year, our counselors in both buildings gathered input from the staff and students, and were able to put together some ideas as to what they needed to work on for the summer, which is why this proposal is coming forward for advisory this year. However, like I mentioned earlier, we are working towards in the future looking at cost-saving options and how they can build this.
So this is really the last year. This has been an annual proposal in the past, but this is really the last, due to the collaboration days, this will be phased out. So the last year we'll be asking for advisory summer hours, because we looked at it in collaboration days. So timing this year of the kind of dissolution of the tech committee and really kind of having to revamp the whole program kind of affected it kind of late in the game for us to have one more year of the advisory work. The total for that is 6 staff members. The total for that is $2,250 total. And then the last is or the first two I should mention is at the $25 rate, because it's technically not part of the job description. It's unique to middle school. It wouldn't be something that would be applicable to high school counselors or anything like that. The last part is part of their job is the transition I'm sorry, it's the tours, it's the scheduling work that they do just prior to the school year. That'll be 2 days, 2 days of work for the 5 counselors, the 2 middle schools, and that would be at the per diem rate. So that is that proposal in itself with the 5 different counselors per diem rate comes in at just shy of $5,000. So the total proposal for those three facets of the program would be $9,875 total. Any questions about any part of that?
Consensus to go back to the next meeting? Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Next is the recommended revisions to Board of Education Policy 7.190 section, second reading and final approval. This is an action item. The Board of Education has a second reading and approve recommended changes to Board of Education Policy 7.190 as attached. Do I have a motion? Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Fred Davis.
Yes.
Vicki Hernandez.
Yes.
Terry Millat.
Yes.
Victoria Newport.
Yes.
Rick Smith.
Yes.
Howard Solomon.
Yes.
Approval of adoption of new tests for math 1, 2, and 3, life skills math at DeKalb High School. This is an action item. That the Board of Education approve the adoption of AGS life skills math, consumer math, and math for the world of work to support math 1, 2, and 3 at DeKalb High School. Do you have a motion?
So moved. We had it before the discussion. And what, it's a shame Chris is not here. So we can all remember a true compliment, outstanding, and this is an outstanding selection. I really applaud. If she's not here, I wouldn't tell her.
She can watch that.
She can watch it. Great, great job.
Any other questions, discussion? Roll call, please.
Vicki Hernandez.
Yes.
Terry Millat.
Yes.
Victoria Newport.
Yes.
Rick Smith.
Yes.
Howard Solomon.
Yes.
Fred Davis.
Yes.
Next is approval of the adoption of the elementary writing program. Being a writer, this is an action item. That the Board of Education approve the adoption and purchase of the elementary writing program, Being a Writer, at a cost of $85,800 to be purchased with Title I funds. Do you have a motion?
Second.
Discussion?
Victoria?
I'd just like to say, when this was presented, it's a neat program, less expensive. I'm glad it's coming from Title I money. If this was coming out of our pocket, I'd have a harder time. Just simply because of financial aspect. It's not a good thing. Something that I'm grateful that we have that Title I to go with, but also something to think about with other programs if I come to us. Long-term deficits, I'm comfortable with those.
Any other comments, discussion? Roll call, please.
Terry Millat.
Yes.
Victoria Newport.
Yes.
Rick Smith.
Yes.
Howard Solomon.
Yes.
Fred Davis.
Yes.
Vicki Hernandez.
Yes. Next is service delivery change in nursing. This is an action item. That the Board of Education approve a service delivery model that utilizes registered nurses for medical procedures and certified school nurses for mandated health-related tasks. For the 2016-17 school year, 6 certified school nurses will continue in their roles, and the district will move to hire 2 procedural nurses to replace 1 CSN. Any motion?
So
Any discussion on this? Roll call, please.
Rick Smith.
yes.
Howard Solomon.
Yes.
Fred Davis.
Yes.
Vicki Hernandez. Terry Millat.
Yes.